I was living in Paris with my ex-girlfriend and this man who we were living in his granny unit, and he had us over for dinner, and he made this beautiful dinner of pork chops and scalloped potatoes, and he had these vegetables, a whole bunch of vegetables that he put in a pressure cooker. And he, when he was cooking them, I was thinking, wow, he's destroying these vegetables, right? So anyway, he serves up the dinner, and these vegetables were really soft, but he poured really good olive oil and really good salt on top, and it was like the best thing I ever had. So that was the first time I really tried good olive oil. So when I came back, I was living in Marin County at the time, and I started noticing olive trees everywhere that were, they were in shopping centers, maybe a couple in front of somebody's house, maybe some wild ones on the hillside. And I thought, I'm going to pick some olives and make some olive oil. So I ended up doing it kind of wild grove style the first time. And I met this person that had put in a press, McAvoy, Nan McAvoy, who was the editor of the Chronicle. I think she was a Hearst, actually, in the Hearst family. Anyway, she had this beautiful press up in Petaluma, and I took the olives up there, got all my buddies to help me pick one year, and we made this oil, and it was just amazing. So that was how it started. Come up here, when I moved here from the Bay Area, I wanted to buy land and plant olive trees. And my wife's company had moved to Grass Valley, so it was too high for olive trees, the elevation. So we started looking lower and lower, and Lake of the Pines, and then Auburn, and everything was really expensive. And then we finally came across Marica outside of Marysville, and there were olive trees everywhere, like 100-year-old olive trees. And so we ended up buying a house that already had it.
I can imagine. I mean, I think you're living my dream life, and that's my well, not olive oil specifically, but to have some land, live off the land, and a regenerative farm. But it's so tough. So I'd love to hear how you got where you got. Before you bought your land, were there already olive trees there?
Yes, the olive trees on my property that I have now were planted around 1906.
Okay.
So, and then I bought another orchard. Those were planted in the 30s.
Okay.
So they're old trees.
So you already knew coming in you wanted that land, or how did that?
I knew I wanted to come up here when I moved here from the Bay Area. I wanted to buy land and plant olive trees. And my wife's company had moved to Grass Valley, so it was too high for olive trees, the elevation. So we started looking lower and lower, and Lake of the Pines, and then Auburn, and everything was really expensive. And then we finally came across Marica outside of Marysville, and there were olive trees everywhere, like 100-year-old olive trees. And so we ended up buying a house that already had an established orchard.
So when you were looking, you had no idea. What were they already producing, or?
Well, the orchard that we bought was 5 acres, and it was covered in blackberries and weeds. And as a city guy, I came and got myself a little push mower and just mowed everything out until my toenails were green, and I got it all cleared out, and then the blackberries would come back. And so eventually I got rid of all the blackberries. I pruned all the trees, and over the course of 5 or 6 years I managed to get the place looking pretty nice.
So it sounded like coming in, have you worked with olives before? Or?
No, I used to be a fashion model, and I traveled all over the world doing that. And I was living in Paris with my ex-girlfriend, and this man who we were living in his granny unit, and he had us over for dinner, and he made this beautiful dinner of pork chops and scalloped potatoes, and he had these vegetables, a whole bunch of vegetables that he put in a pressure cooker. And he, you know, when he was cooking them, I'm thinking, wow, you know, he's destroying these vegetables, right? So anyway, he serves up the dinner, and these vegetables were really soft, but he poured really good olive oil and really good salt on top, and it was like the best thing I ever had. So that was the first time I really tried good olive oil. So when I came back, I was living in Marin County at the time, and I started noticing olive trees everywhere that were, you know, they were in shopping centers, maybe a couple in front of somebody's house, you know, maybe some wild ones on the hillside. And I thought, I'm going to pick some olives and make some olive oil. So I ended up doing it kind of wild grove style the first time. And I met this person that had put in a press, McAvoy, who was the Nan McAvoy, who was the editor of the Chronicle. I think she was a Hearst, actually, in the Hearst family. Anyway, she had this beautiful press up in Petaluma, and I took the olives up there, got all my buddies to help me pick one year, and we made this oil, and it was just amazing. So that was how it started.
So it sounds like you just instantly became a fan of food and how important to know where food comes from, especially if you're growing it yourself and you're producing it yourself. There's no additive ingredients, right? Because industrial farming has kind of made everything cheaper, but you know, or what is it? What are those oils called? Industrial oils, right?
Yeah, the seed oils, you know, like I don't know if you ever heard of canola oil, of course. Well, canola oil just means Canadian oil low acid, canola. And it's basically rapeseed oil, and it's, you know, because they make it in Canada, rapeseed oil is probably not going to sell very good, right? So they had come up with a name, and canola is what they came up with. But industrial farming is kind of an issue. You know, in the United States, we have beautiful romaine lettuce, you know, it's perfect, and it lasts for 2 weeks, and, you know, all the stuff that we have is like these big farms, you know, and there's a lot of pesticides and herbicides and even GMO type things that make it not as healthy. I mean, you go to Europe and you have a salad at a restaurant, it tastes like, you know, like you grew it in the backyard. So there's a real difference of to regular farming and the way we do it mostly here.
Yeah, I know that in Italy, when you eat pizza and the pastries and everything, you don't feel the same as when you're eating it here, right? Is it glyphosate that they put in wheat?
It's in the wheat, it's in the corn, it's in a lot of stuff. I think glyphosate is from Roundup.
Roundup, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the stuff that we have here is illegal over there. I mean, if you look at a box of cereal, here there's like, you know, 10,000 ingredients or whatever. Same with, you know, like I grew up loving macaroni and cheese, Kraft macaroni and cheese. And I mean, it's got a million things on it. If you go and get it in Europe, it doesn't have that many, and there's a bunch of stuff that they don't allow over there. They still have it, but it's different. So, you know, it's definitely cool to have a family farm that we know what we're putting in it, and it's the best, and that's why it tastes so good.
Yeah, it's a big difference. I think I myself didn't realize anything until like 2009 or 10. I think I read a book called Eating in the Wild, and the author was talking about dandelion leaves and miner's lettuce and all these things that grow in the wild. And I just recently was eating spinach, and it was a superfood, but this was even higher than, and it like made no sense. It like blew my mind. Like, why are we getting rid of weeds instead of growing them? Like, it made absolutely no sense to me.
Well, my wife did this this class, and she brought home a book, and it was like how to fight diseases naturally. And it was like, you know, they showed walnuts that look like a brain, and they show different foods, you know, that help you cure yourself. Of course, you're not gonna, you know, it's not gonna be like miraculous, but it can make a huge difference. Yeah. And I think just eating properly, and I'm not the best. I mean, I've been known to pull into McDonald's, you know. So as a kid, you know, it's like a great thing. But I mean, you know, I've been trying really much harder just to eat more clean. You can tell when you eat like deer or like wild duck. it just, the way you feel afterwards, it just feels so much better than, even a big fat juicy ribeye steak. I mean, it's delicious, right? But kind of like bam. So I mean, it's a good thing to try to eat healthy.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the important thing kind of with this channel is there's so many people out there doing everything correctly just like you are. And I was kind of reading your bio on your website, and I know that there's a lot of health enthusiasts. I think they put olive oil now in coffee, right? Like I just
That's something that they've been doing at Starbucks. Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
called
if they're
Olea something, which is funny because we're Calolea, and everybody thinks like that's my last name or whatever. But Calolea is California. Olea is olives in Latin, so it's Calolea is California olive. But yes, they've been putting it into coffee. It's just it's a really healthy fat. It's really easy for your body to absorb, and there's a lot of anti-inflammatories and polyphenols that fight free radicals in your system, and it's good for you. Yes.
Yeah, I know an elder who's I think he's in his 70s and just a fountain of knowledge, and he says I think he takes like 3 shots of olive oil a day. And I was like, I didn't even know about that. And I looked into it, and people had like chia seeds and a couple more things here and there. And I was like,
there's an elder would know. These are the people that have the knowledge of living on the land, and when it was really clean living. Now it's just so easy not to. You don't know what's in the bread. You don't know what's in the corn. It's just these manipulated, high-producing varieties of these things that are fighting bugs and, they kill everything in the soil just to make this, So it's cool that olives don't take a lot of they don't need pesticides or herbicides. They just need a little water and sunshine. And they like to be treated kind of badly because that makes them taste better.
Wow.
It's kind of like grapes.
Yeah. I noticed on your website that you have free range cattle. What do you do with the cattle? Are they just the ones clearing out the grass, or how's that?
I started out getting the cows because I bought this old tractor, right? And it's 110 out here all the time in the summer. And mowing the grass with the tractor on this 20-acre orchard that I bought was a lot of work. And so I thought, well, I'll get a couple cows. Well, then the cows cut the grass. They did great, but then you start getting more cows. So I started to, I butchered one. I stopped naming them, like with names. I started naming them after cuts of beef.
Yeah.
And then, I butchered one, and then that was kind of a traumatic experience, but I had a whole cow. And you go to the grocery store, it's expensive. So, and I know where that cow's raised, I know what it's eaten, and over the years, if I get too many cows, I sell a couple, or I butcher one. And I'm always the guy that brings some steaks or some burgers over to the barbecue, so.
Nice.
Yeah, having that meat's nice.
So how many cattle are you kind of?
Right now I have 6.
6, okay.
Yeah. And it's in a 20-acre parcel, so 6 is probably perfect. Even though in the wintertime I do, like right now, I have to feed them alfalfa or grass or hay or whatever, something, because there's not any grass. The grass is down to the bottom. So during the winter I do have to feed them, and right now as the sun's been out for a while, the grass will start coming out. I do have to give them a salt block that has selenium in it because our local area lacks that and they need it. So, but in the summer they live off the grass. It's pretty cool.
Could you imagine your farm would grow as big as it is, or be? It seems like you're flourishing. Because I've seen your stuff all over the farmers markets.
I've been doing it this was my 26th season of making olive oil. So I have been doing it a while. And I started out with my own orchard in 2000. So I have grown, but, and I'm doing fine. But the olive oil business is not raking in tons of money. I mean, my wife sells real estate, and she makes more than I do. So and she helps me with my business.
Yeah.
So it takes us both.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of traveling, and we, have been able to put a swimming pool at our house and solar panels, and we do well. But without both of us, we wouldn't have that. If it was just one of us making money, we wouldn't have that luxury. We both work hard.
Okay. I've noticed that you guys expanded to a tasting room. How is that kind of working for you?
Well, we got a loan. We wanted to buy more property because we only had a 5 acres property, and we looked into how we could afford it. And this was, maybe 18 years ago. And the Yuba Sutter Economic Development lent us the money. Well, they didn't lend us the money for the land. We bought the land with my wife's parents. We split this 20-acre olive orchard, and we borrowed the money from Yuba Sutter Economic Development to build the tasting room. And then my mother and father-in-law built a house on the same property. So the tasting room has been great because it's a place that I can do my bottling. It's a place where I can store all my olive oil. It's a place where I can put all my glass bottles, my labels, my filling machines, and also have events. And it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so we don't have many events. We've tried to open it just for, the one, like Saturdays, but it's just not worth it. So we have scheduled events, and we have a winery accompany us, and we do like a 2-day event or a farm tour where we'll have a band, and I'll serve up a bunch of food, and we utilize it that way. But yeah, it's a good place to have for for the business. It's a business building, basically.
And that's out in Bangor, right?
Yeah, it's in Bangor.
Okay, and did you get that last year, or has it been 2 years, or?
We've had the property, I think, around 17 years, and then the building went up about 15 years ago. And then my mother and father-in-law built their place about 14 years ago.
So I noticed also that your olive oil is considered extra virgin. Is that a hard test to pass, or how does that kind of?
Okay, so the extra virgin is a combination of a couple of things. It's a lab test to determine if the free fatty acid level is below a certain number. It's also a taste test to determine if there's any defects, like wet wood or musty or fusty. There's different tastes in olive oil that the pros can tell you if there's a defect. But mostly it's a lab test to see if it's under a certain amount of free fatty acid. The definition in the international world out of Madrid, Spain, is it's 0.08, and in California it's 0.05. So we have a higher standard to be extra virgin. It has to be below 0.05. And so ours usually tests out at 0.01, 0.02, 0.03. It's always under 0.05. If you go to Europe, the way you get that done is by picking it and pressing it immediately. The oxidation is what makes that level go up. So if you pick and you press immediately, it's going to be low. The way that it goes higher is if it sits. So like if I picked and waited 3 or 4 days to press it, that's when I would be up in the 0.08 area. And a lot of times what the slicksters in Europe do is they have this oil that's not extra virgin. It's called virgin because it's above that. And they add just enough of the good stuff to get that test to where it goes right below 0.08, and they can consider it extra virgin.
Okay.
So there's some research you can do into all that as well.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. You have a depth of knowledge of everything olive oil.
Well, it's been a while, so I've been, I learn new stuff every year. Though.
Oh, really?
I'm not, I don't know everything,
Yeah.
but I've learned a lot over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just great because a lot of people probably don't know what an owner does, what you produce, and like you said, if it wasn't for your wife, it'd be harder.
Way
right?
harder, yeah. Way harder.
And hopefully these kind of talks can show transparency and show people why it's important to buy local, why to support local,
Absolutely.
why it's important to source your things in a close proximity to where they live, because that way you know the quality and the freshness of everything, right?
Yeah.
I noticed that you're now doing CBD products.
Well, yes, we are carrying CBD products. I have a friend in Oregon, my wife and I, who makes CBD products. So, like, we have these dog cookies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we send him our olive oil, and he does his recipe. It's like a pumpkin cookie kind of thing with CBD, and it's for dogs. And then we also do a pain cream that we send him our olive oil, and he makes pain cream for us. And lotion. Well, the lotion doesn't have CBD. We do a lip balm with CBD, and yeah, we have bath bombs. We really wanted to do that. I wanted to do a CBD olive oil, and I wanted to do a THC straight up olive oil. But the rules and regulations are tough. As a matter of fact, QuickBooks, who I do my accounting with, called us and said we could not take money from people through QuickBooks because we had CBD on our website. So we had to tell people they can't send money through QuickBooks anymore because they were going to get rid of it. They were not going to let us use their accounting software because we were selling CBD products.
Wow.
And it's the same, like farmers markets are a little bit funny. Some of them don't mind and others really do. And so I have all my paperwork and I'm trying to promote it, but the powers that be do not want, even though the Farm Act in, I think it was 2018, was passed to make it CBD legal. Absolutely.
Hemp, yeah, hemp, right?
Yeah, hemp is legal. But, the big boys out there don't want you to do it. They want their cut. They would need their money. And then if they ain't getting it, they're going to make sure you ain't getting it. So, for me, I have always grown a little weed my whole life, so for myself. And I've always thought it was a good thing. And it is. I mean, up until, the 30s, if you took cough syrup that you made in the 1800s or the early 1900s, it all had cannabis in it. All of it. That was like the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, with the industrialization and the cotton, they didn't want hemp around because it was going to take over their cotton industry. And they could make plastic out of hemp. They could make gasoline out of hemp. They could do a lot of things. So the oil and gas industry, the tire companies, the clothing, cotton, and everybody, they did not want. Plus, they found a way to put blacks and minorities in jail from smoking weed. So it was like this whole thing.
A propaganda, and I believe it's William Randall Hearst.
Yeah,
was a big.
He probably was.
He was, because he had all these new, he was a media mogul, and
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was like the 30s or whatnot, but he had like you're saying, everyone was using hemp, and hemp paper is great. Everything is regenerative. There's nothing better than. It's just like a magical.
And it sucks carbon out of the air.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense.
No sense.
How everything is so illegal. But he was one of the persons, because he didn't want to change his printing press to use hemp fibers. So instead, he created all this propaganda, like you're saying, about Mexicans, about blacks, about.
Making you crazy. Like playing, if you ever see Reefer Madness, it's like, anybody who's ever smoked weed, some people maybe act like that, but most people not.
Well, if people get anxious or anxiety, a lot of it is because you have it inside and you're just bringing it up to the surface, right? Yeah. And it's absurd, like everything that's controlled and manipulated, and a lot of times I personally believe, because it does make a difference and it does help you, it affects pharmaceutical companies.
Oh yeah. Well, it's everything. Like, the hemp was threatened, the paper industry, the cotton clothing industry, the gasoline, the plastic, everything, the rub, you name it, it was used for all that stuff, and they weren't gonna give up all that money. Rockefeller with the oil, and I mean, they weren't giving up that money. So
Yeah, that's absurd that it's what 2025, over 100 years, and these dumb laws, everything that's in place. I don't know if you know about Joe Celestine. He's a regenerative farmer.
No.
Supposedly he's coming in to the FDA. Who else is on there? Oh, JFK Jr. as well. You know, he's a big advocate of health and everything
Okay,
of
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
nature. And supposedly they're coming after the FDA and all these crazy rules and
And I mean,
regulations.
I think that there's something to that. Yeah.
And I hope, because this guy, he's a real legit regenerative farmer, Joe Celestine, and RFK is all about health and raw milk and raw eggs and how you can't really sell that as well.
Europe has cheeses that would be illegal here,
Yeah.
but raw milk can get you sick if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
So, pasteurization is a good thing. Same with immunizations.
Yeah.
But I guess, sometimes they're going over a little edge, and there is got to be a little bit more, looking into this stuff to make sure. I mean, I'm all about getting rid of yellow dye 57 that gives you cancer, and if RFK is about that, cool. But I don't want to stop giving kids measles vaccinations, you know what I mean, or polio. I mean, that would not be good. So there's got to be a happy medium.
Yeah, like you said, we do have to do our research, and they should also be transparent on what's in there. Be 100. Don't just say, we know. And
the pharmaceuticals aren't the ones who are going to tell you. Just like the tobacco company said, there's nothing wrong with tobacco.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely needs to be some, like you said, clear. You need to be able to look into it.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And that's kind of nuts that you're telling me that QuickBooks want to take money because you put CBD. And this is another reason why I'm a huge proponent of cryptocurrency. I mean, I don't know if you know a lot about it.
I'm just learning. A friend of mine's made a fortune off of it, actually.
I've known quite a few. With
he just retired. I'm 60. He's my age. He just retired. He got into it a long time ago, and Bitcoin took a big, huge jump, and he
benefited.
He made a bunch of money and just said, "I'm quitting my job. I'm going to travel with my family." And I'm a little skeptical, when the Donald Trump now has a crypto coin.
Well, that's not good.
I don't want it to be, if it's going to be real, let it be real, but I hope they're not killing it either.
Well, see, that's the unfortunate thing is, when there's something good, it almost seems like there's always something bad. And what he has is a meme coin, meaning anybody can create a cryptocurrency, right? And the sad thing is celebrities get involved, they start advertising, and they do these rug pulls where, it costs less than a penny, and they have so much money in it, and it like goes up 1,000, 5,000, its value price, they take out their money, just like stocks. Well, just like stocks, Right. But there's a couple of them that I think we're going to see take off if Twitter or X, how Elon Musk started PayPal?
Yeah.
He wants to incorporate something called Stellar Lumens. It's XLM. It's like 50 cents right now. So I tell everyone, just buy $100.
Yeah.
And just hold on to that.
Yeah, a friend of mine's saying the same thing. He's saying, don't put all your money in Bitcoin. No. Do it in there. He told me 2 other ones. And, and if you have 10 grand to put in or lose, if you had, just try it out.
Yeah, I say
see
the
what
exact
happens.
same thing. Yep.
And, I agree with that. I mean,
we shouldn't be told what we can or can't buy or how, I just hate.
You're right.
I hate banks because my parents have a small business in Marysville.
They make a lot of money, banks do.
Well, you know how credit card processing machines, right? They collect everything from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they don't put it into your account till Monday.
Yeah.
How ridiculous.
They make all that money.
How ridiculous.
Well, plus, everything goes through the bank. If you have cash and buy my olive oil for the price, then I use that to pay my son's college tuition or, groceries. But a bank takes that little cut, and pretty soon that $100, they get it all by all those little cuts they took. So yeah, it's a scam.
Yeah.
It's a scam.
And this is the big reason why I like crypto is yes, you have to follow some simple rules from knowing your keys and having encryption. That's why encryption is really important. So your information isn't out there. But if you get rid of a middleman and I'm sending you money directly with nobody in the middle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like having that
It's
kind of
better.
control, right?
Yeah.
Because even when you're a small business, you can you have a lot of write-offs and you're better, have all these things to write off. Then when you work for someone, they already immediately deduct it, and
Right.
it makes it a lot harder.
We take Square, which we use Square to process our money, and they do take a cut.
Mm-hmm.
And but when we first started, the bank said, "Oh, we're going to take 2%," whatever they said.
Mm-hmm.
But then they charge you $80 a month for the machine, and you got to buy the paper, and then you got to pay them their little 2%, and then if you don't sell over 1,000, then it's 4%. I mean, it's like there's all these little things, and they just end up getting you. And the good thing about Square is it's a set thing; it's always the same, and it's great. But now they have Venmo and Zelle, and I don't know what kind of cut they take, but if I'm correct, I don't think Venmo takes anything.
I think for businesses, the businesses are the ones that always get the little percentage charged onto them, and they don't charge the customer.
Okay.
That's why, like with me with crypto, it comes direct. It's called a wallet, right? It comes directly into your wallet.
All right.
And the thing is, all this technology is already here, waiting. It just has to be implemented.
Right. And I think that who do you think's fighting that?
Well, I don't know if you know.
Wells Fargo.
I don't know if you know who Gary Gensler is. He's the
That
chairman.
sounds familiar.
He's the chairman of the SEC, Security and Exchange
Okay.
Commission,
Yeah.
and he was deadly against all cryptocurrency, right? And well, he's from Lehman Brothers, and they have.
There's no more Lehman Brothers.
or is it Goldman Sachs?
Whatever. Lehman Brothers was the one that got, that sunk in.
Yeah. But
yeah, of course he's against it.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the other hand, taking up his side for a second, there's this institution that's just been forever true, and those guys have all the money to put up all the blocks and everything. But then how many times you hear, oh, they got into this and they got into that? Pretty soon, what if they got into Wells Fargo and stole all your money? Then we would have nothing. So, there's definitely a place for the cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe I need to start like a crypto channel just to show people the basics and how easy it is, and it's not that complicated.
I think it's scary for a lot of people.
It is, because it's something so different. I've heard people say, "I want to see it in my hand." I'm like, so where's the money when you put it in the bank,
right?
Or your 401k?
Yeah, you're just praying that Vanguard stays alive until you retire. Yeah, for sure.
So is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Anything specifically you want to kind of?
I thank you for the opportunity to get this out there. I'll definitely, forward this out to my people, like to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And just thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about olive oil and our story, because a small business like us, we are true capitalists. We have to sell olive oil every day, every week to pay our bills, and I'm not some big business. I'm a little guy, and just like my wife, she has to sell houses in order for us to keep alive. And so, any kind of time that we can get out there and promote ourselves, it's really nice. So I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it as well. I know you're a busy person, and this is just, I'm flattered, you're the second kind of farmer. Do you know who Companion Farms is? He does the little microgreens.
If I saw them, I probably know them because I do the farmers markets all the time. But yeah, just off the top of my head, I don't. But I love those little microgreens.
Yeah, and he was just talking about the exact same thing. He has a full-time job, he has a family, and but he loves it so much.
I think I know. Was he the guy who was like the prison guard or something?
Yeah, he works for the prison.
No, he's
a manager.
He's a great guy. He's the guy who's running the Marysville Farmers Market. And we were doing that. Although I've never met him, I have talked to him a few times. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, I had him on as well. The video takes so much time because it's 4K. It takes longer to process it and upload it. So
yeah, I'm sure.
Still taking a little.
But you want to do it in high quality.
Oh, of course. I mean, I have a former model right now.
Yeah, like a little chunky these days. But...
Hey, but I can imagine the stories of. I'm like, I need to have you back on.
We could talk about that. Like this maybe when they turn the camera off. All right,
Michael,
thanks,
thank you so much. And I gotta say one more thing is you look like you're in your 40s. I can't believe you're in your 60s. That olive oil is really...
It might be doing it. That and the cannabis.
There you go. All right. Well,